Well, today we started with the book of Job. And Craig, our lector, said to me right before Mass, boy, great readings today, huh, Father Dave? We got Job, even Paul's complaining. How come I can't make money at this preaching thing? Book of Job is usually, one of those in the Bible, kind of like Revelation, where we go, that's a little weird, I'm going to stay away from that. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know about you, but I have never more been able to relate to Job than right now. He says, I've been assaulted with all sorts of problems and deprivations. He talks about laying awake at night, not being able to sleep. He goes on, and practically the entire reading, as I was reading it over a few times, preparing to preach today, I was like, I felt like I was in the congregation at preach it, Job. Amen. I am feeling that too, Job. So Job is usually looked at by us as a place in the Bible that hard for us to relate to. That's not to say we don't have issues or problems or that we've never had suffering. But it seems like Job, that's really to the extreme. But I'll confess to you that I have felt a lot of those things this year. How come I can't go anywhere? How come I can't see people, hug people, smile at people? I'm going to get it all out of the way up here because I know you can't see me smiling after Mass. How come I have trouble sleeping so many nights? In fact, over the course of the pandemic, it's been reported that even just here in the United States, people describing incidents of mental illness, depression, sleepless nights, even suicidal ideations has increased by something like 30%. It's actually somewhat overwhelming the mental health industry even. We are, in a sense, living like Job. We need something or someone to come in and take all this away. So for the last couple of weeks, we've all been pretty excited at that miraculous thing that's going to take all this away. That little needle, that shot, that vaccine that will bring about healing, won't it? But I was reading an article recently by someone in the mental health profession who said, there's no vaccine for what's been weighing on us. There's no vaccine for the loss and the grief that we have felt this year. Just today, a good friend of mine posted on her social media pictures from her father's burial with military honors. Of course, people spaced out and outside and with masks on. And while maybe not everyone has experienced the death of a loved one, we've all experienced loss. And I would say as an American culture, this is my non-professional opinion, we don't grieve very well. We prefer to talk about the Super Bowl and the 43-year-old greatest of all time who's going up against the young gun. Or what do you think that new Doritos commercial is going to be, huh? We'd rather go there than go where Job goes, very honestly, complaining to God. How many of us have ever actually spent time complaining to God? Were we raised that that's a no-no? That's like talking back to your mom or your teacher. You don't do that as a good Christian or Catholic boy or girl. And yet, the scriptures are filled with examples like this. It's not just Job. Throughout the Psalms, and certainly in our tradition of the saints, people feel like they can shake the fist at God and that's okay. And you know what? He can take it. He's not going to crumble. And yet today is less about lament and more about healing. We've been kicking off Mark's gospel for the last couple of weeks. And Mark, throughout his gospel, actually has more verses dedicated to healing stories and exorcisms than even the Passion narrative. For Mark, the way he tells this story and the way we will continue to hear again week after week, healing and preaching are inextricable. Jesus says, this is why I came. And in fact, for Mark's theology, it is the healings that give legitimacy to Jesus being able to preach and people being able to hear that. So today, we have two very interesting images of Jesus healing. One, the way he prefers to do it, and the other, the way we often think it's supposed to happen. We're doing tap dancing. So Jesus, first in this story, goes to a house where Peter's mother-in-law lay sick from something. She's in bed. And he just takes her by the hand, lifts her up, the fever leaves her, and then it says she begins to wait on them or serve them or minister to them, which of course leads to the panoply of Catholic jokes about, well, there she is waiting on the men, you know. And yet the actual Greek word that Mark uses he uses a couple of other times, and it's oftentimes in the context of ministry. To minister and serve. The root word is the same as deacon, the word for service. As soon as she experiences healing, she's moved to ministry. And then it says, later on, after the sun sets. So Mark has already set this up, that this is a Sabbath day. They're coming from the synagogue. Everybody else in the town waits until after sunset because that's the rule. You're not supposed to lift a burden during the Sabbath. So they waited to go ask Jesus for healing. And because they waited, it was all crowded. It's like the lines at City MD on 57th Street at about 7 in the morning. Everybody's all lined up. When can I get my test? Get my shot? Mark uses this beautiful image that the entire town is crowded at the door. Imagine that. And it's not like a suburban McMansion with double French doors. This is like a cave, pretty much. The entire town is gathered at the door. And Jesus brings about healing. All night. He's exhausted. But notice what the people do, what I think we sometimes do. Maybe we don't want to bother Jesus. He's busy now. Maybe he's praying now. He's got other things to do. He's dealing with that South African variant. I don't want to bother him with my stuff. They waited until after sunset because apparently they were more holy than Jesus. Ever meet anybody like that ever? If you've been on the internet, you have. That's for sure. Jesus heals during the Sabbath. He heals Simon's mother-in-law. They waited until later because maybe they think the rules we've been taught, don't yell at God, don't bother Jesus, he's got other things more important to deal with than you. Whatever those tapes are that are playing in your and my head, he breaks those stereotypes. But the image that has captured me today in response to our Job reading, where life is drudgery and I can't sleep and everything's lousy, is the fact that Jesus essentially says, bring them to me. I will heal them. They're inside this tiny little house. Peter or Simon and Andrew had probably a bigger house. It was kind of like what we call like a two-family house here in New York City. So Simon had one, and then the in-laws and everybody, they were all gathered there. But then they go to this other little place, small. Everyone's gathered at the door. And that is where Jesus says, I will heal you. I am the vaccine that you really need. It's not to say we shouldn't get the shot. Don't clip me out of context and put that on social media because people are doing that, right? And we may, and it's weird that even in our church, people are, kind of divided. Not everybody wants to get it or thinks we should get it. But let's be undivided about this. We need the Jesus vaccine. We need God's healing in our lives. Every one of us. I need a great amount of healing right now. I am feeling low. I'm feeling empty. I'm feeling like I'm in mourning. My mom, as many of you know, has been in hospice care for over 2 years, so it's kind of like a prolonged, not yet mourning and grieving process. Really strange. And people like to say, thank God you still have her, and of course that's true. But it's also kind of one foot in the grieving and one foot not. It's draining, it's exhausting. And every one of you has a story that stems out of this pandemic that makes us feel like Job. Please, just want it to be over. And many people, as we've heard, have said that in very dire ways. So Jesus offers first and foremost healing. He doesn't say, if you notice, he doesn't say, all right, come around in the little amphitheater, I'm going to preach, and once you sign off on all of that theological content, then I will grant you some healing. The healing comes first. Healing comes first so that he can preach, so that we will hear the word of God. And then what? After that, as demonstrated by Simon's mother-in-law and what Paul says in the second reading, then it's up to us to spread the word. All that money they're spending on those little vaccine ads, the one where the Statue of Liberty raises her arm, she's got the little Band-Aid on there. Have you seen that one on TV? Spending a lot of money on these ads. We are the best advertisement for the Jesus vaccine. When we, in our brokenness, in our need of healing, in our struggles, our addictions, our bad habits, our depression, our lack of sleep, when we allow Jesus to heal us and not wait until a better time, more convenient time, we then can become the evangelists that Paul talks about. Woe to me, he says, if I don't share this. Woe to me. And in the Bible, woe means something really bad is going to happen. Woe to me if I am not the best advertisement for the Jesus vaccine. It's hard when you're not feeling at the top of your game to stand up here and do this, I'll admit to you. And yet, it's not me, nor will it be you. It is Jesus injecting his healing into each of us so that we may go and spread this gift of life to the world. So this week, make your appointment, however you're going to do that, in your own private prayer, maybe some time with the Bible, some time to really just shake your fist and yell at God like Job, however you do it. Make your appointment for your Jesus vaccine. Let him heal you and become the best ad we could ask for the love and healing of Jesus.